It's Suzette Viernon, and welcome to my channel. I I appreciate you taking your time to listen to my video as I explore Agenda 47, which is Donald Trump's lauded plan for his presidency. And this is the plan that he has really focused the most on while distancing himself from Project 2025. And though it sounds like or says that that's some distancing going on, listen, I'll leave it up to your judgment. I'll leave it up to your judgment. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time, the purpose of this channel is for me to redefine my 60s on my own terms. And I feel like part of that redefinition is really taking this election cycle very seriously, being an informed voter. AARP says that seniors 54 and above in age form a huge voting bloc. And so it really pays for us to be very informed about our candidates. And I think as a demographic, we tend to not be as moved by, charisma. We want to know how that presidency is going to affect our lives, our children's lives, our abilities to be as independent as we can be, our health care, and for many of us, our fixed incomes, Social Security, that kind of thing, Medicare being another federally funded option for those of us who are 65 or above. So, yeah, we have a stake in our elections. And I have really noticed, even in my 60s, and especially with this particular election, that I really, really feel really pulled. I feel compelled to truly, truly drill down because this election has the potential to direct how history is recorded long after we're gone. And I want to be on the right side of history. So if you feel the same way, I certainly welcome you. As I've said in previous videos, the point of this video is not to convert you. It is my space to discuss what I found, my thoughts, and to share them on this platform. And my hope is that you who maybe might not know for sure where you're leaning, whether you're leaning toward sitting VP Kamala Harris or whether you're leaning toward Donald J. Trump. My purpose is to present information in a calm fashion, no ranting, no raving, no noise, no, thumping my chest, but to provide you with a space where you can hear yourself think and have a space where you can reason. And I believe that you'll come to the conclusion that you need to come to. Today's focus is on Agenda 47 and what President Trump proposes when it comes to crime. I have quite a few sources that I'll be checking today. One being Agenda 47 itself, and zeroing in where he talks about crime and policing and all of that. But it's also his website where he goes into detail. It's called Agenda 47. President Trump announces plan to end crime and restore law and order. So I'm going to be reading directly. You can see this directly from his website. You can't see the title, and I hate that because of the glare. But anyway, you see his picture, and that's what I'm reading from. Oh, I know why you couldn't see it. I had rolled it up. There you go. Yeah. So I'm looking at his website. I'm also going to draw from my experience because I lived through his previous 4 years as president of the United States. So I feel like there are some things that I can really speak directly to and don't need to research. I also am using as resources factchecked.org. I think in the previous one, I referred to it incorrectly. I referred to it as fact checking when it's actually, let me see here, it's actually called factcheck.org and PolitiFacts. I'll be drawing from those sources as well and some other, yeah, I think those are the main sources. Of course, the dictionary, definitions for certain things for sure. And it's not because I don't know what the definitions are, but because somebody listening to me may not know what those definitions are. And so I want to break it down for them. I have to tell you, this crime one has been really interesting. It's been really, really interesting in a lot of ways. So I've had to draw from a variety of resources to really get a good picture. As I've said previously as well, to me, what you do and what you say are very important to me as a voter. Not just what you promise, not just what you might have on your website, but I also want to draw from what you're saying in your rallies, how you're approaching certain topics, what you're saying in the here and now, and also how you're responding in this very intense campaign season, how you're responding to the stressors, how you're responding. That's very important because it's very important to me to have someone who is even-tempered, who is able to make decisions that are not rash or impulsive, but are able to look at the big picture. Somebody that I feel like is stable to have our nuclear codes, okay? Right? Okay. So yeah, that. So, and another thing that I said in my previous video, specifically the immigration one, and that I went into more detail on is while I respect and invite your perspectives and your views and your opinions, what I will not tolerate is any throwing off, any shaming, any condescent, any downright being mean. None of that. None of that is permitted here. We can differ. I would like for you to be able to name your sources because we are having a discussion not just based on emotion and feeling and charisma, but we're having a very sober and critical discussion of something that's very, very important, which is Donald Trump's agenda. Okay? So, and someone brought it up in a previous comment saying, well, you know, his agenda is on his page, but I can't find any Kamala Harris is on her page. Well, on her campaign trail, she's telling you where her agenda is. She's speaking directly to the American people about what her agenda is. The reason that I myself had to deep dive into Donald Trump's agenda is because there's so much noise, so much inflammatory speaking and name calling and you know all this kind of gaslighting that he does, that on all this deflection, that you can get really confused about where he stands. There's a lot of double speak with him. And so it is very important to cut through all the noise and to find out exactly where he's coming from. Right? So that's the difference. All righty. So let's start. I'm going to start with Agenda 47 from his page. Feel free, if you want to take notes, do so. If you want to follow along on your computer, your laptop, your cell phone, definitely do that. I will put links to my resources in the description. So if you want to do a deeper dive after I've completed this episode, feel free to do so. So let's just start with Donald Trump's plans to end crime and restore law and order. Okay. In his agenda, which is a PDF, I looked all through it, and what seems to talk the most about it is chapter 8, okay, where he says, bring common sense to government and renew the pillars of American civilization. I've brought up his agenda, the PDF of his agenda on my Galaxy tablet. And so I'm going to read directly from it. And then after that, I'm going to go over to the specific page on his website where he gives a little bit more substance to some of the things he's saying here. Okay. All righty. So here we go. Our commitment. Republicans offer a plan to renew American civilization with common sense policies that support families, restores law and order, cares for veterans, promotes beauty, and honors American history. We commit to strengthening the foundations of our society for a brighter future. Okay, so because this is about crime, I'm going to zero in on the law and order portion, okay? Rebuild our cities and restore law and order, which is point number 2. Republicans will restore safety in our neighborhoods by replenishing police departments, restoring common sense policing, and protecting officers from frivolous lawsuits. We will stand up to Marxist prosecutors, vigorously defend the right of every American to live in peace, and we will compassionately address homelessness to restore order to our streets. Number 3, make Washington, D.C. the safest and most beautiful capital city. Republicans will reassert greater federal control over Washington, D.C. to restore law and order in our capital city and ensure federal buildings and monuments are well maintained. Okay, let's see if this deals with crime. No, I don't think that does. Let's see. Okay, I think this kind of indirectly may fall under the crime law and order umbrella. Republicans condemn anti-Semitism and support revoking visas of foreign nationals who support terrorism and jihadism. We will hold accountable those who perpetrate violence against Jewish people. Okay. Da, 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 Okay. Okay. That's what I see so far. The other parts deal with honoring American history, which kind of, if you want to hear more about that, my very first episode on Agenda 47 goes into detail about education, where I break down specifically how this affects Black people. Again, for those of you that are new, the focus of my channel is Black women in their 60s or over 60. That is the focus of my channel. So you will hear me refer a lot to Black people because that's my main demographic. But you may also listen because you may also see uh, where your rights and freedoms fall under this discussion of Donald Trump's agenda. Okay? All righty then. Let's see what else we got. That's what I see. For those of you that might be commenting, if you see some other references that address criminality in some of his other pages, then feel free to let me know. Oh, let's see. Government of by the people. Let's see. Okay, this probably lines up with it too. Chapter 9, government of, by, and for the people. Number one, Republicans will stop woke and weaponized government. We will hold accountable those who have misused the power of government to unjustly prosecute their political opponents. Could you be any more direct? Okay, I'll get more into it when we look after this is after I get through with this and I give more commentary to what he could possibly be referring to. Okay, we will declassify government records, root out wrongdoers, and fire corrupt employees. Okay, I don't know if that really falls under crime per se, but to me, some parts of it seem a little criminal. But anyway, okay, I think even though I might not be going through this line by line on every page, Agenda 47, I think going to his direct page, which I'm going to now. I showed it to you. I'll show it to you again. This is on his official page. So I think whatever questions that I have, question marks I have from reading the list of things he's planning on doing, this right here goes into more detail. Okay. It says President Trump's plan to keep American communities safe. One, President Trump will sign a record investment in hiring, retention, and training for police officers. The bill will increase vital liability protections for America's law enforcement officers. Okay. Number two, President Trump will require local law enforcement agencies receiving DOJ, that's Department of Justice, grants to return to proven policing measures such as stop and frisk, strictly enforcing existing gun laws, cracking down on the open use of illegal drugs, and cooperating with ICE to arrest and deport criminal aliens. Number three, President Trump will take on the radical Marxist prosecutors who have abolished cash bail and refuse to charge criminals. President Trump will direct the DOJ to open civil rights investigations into radical leftist prosecutors' offices, such as those in Chicago, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, to determine whether they have illegally engaged in race-based law enforcement. Okay. Number four, President Trump will instruct the Department of Justice to dismantle every gang, street crew, and drug network in America. President Trump has also called for the death penalty for drug dealers and human traffickers. Number 5, President Trump has committed to deploying federal assets, including the National Guard, to restore law and order when local law enforcement refuses to act. Number 6, President Trump will order the Education and Justice Departments to overhaul federal standards on disciplining minors. Number 7, finally, President Trump will sign concealed carry reciprocity legislation, fully secure the border, dramatically increase interior enforcement, and wage war on the cartels. He goes into some transcripts which is his custom, to do a little bit of finger pointing at previous administrations. And that's the reason I'm bringing up PolitiFact and fact checking, because my experience of him is he can embellish, he reserves the right to embellish and to exaggerate the facts more in his favor. And by doing so, not giving a true representation. And as I've said before, context matters. Approach matters. And when you can kind of massage the facts to work for you, to me, that's a red flag, because it speaks to character. And I want to vote for who I have full confidence in, who will not only fight for a certain sect of the American populace, but who will, through government, preserve the rights and freedoms and dignity of all of America's citizens, regardless of sex, gender, race, religion, okay? Because I think it is a crime to push off one's religious beliefs on a very diverse population when you say that you honor people's rights to their faith. Okay? So let's look at what PolitiFact has said. I've got so many things around here. I wrote a few notes because I would have probably about 50 tabs open, 50 browsers open to thoroughly research everything. And I welcome you. If you find anything in your research that justifies what I'm saying, say so. If you have a differing perspective, say so. And I feel like, however, I feel like using tried and true measures, truth meters, if you will, through factcheck.org and politifact.com. I think that is very useful and necessary when one of the things that has become very, very clear is that there are a lot of falsehoods that Trump says with his full chest and makes it sound like it's true. But even if there is a measure of truth, one thing I have learned is when a person's motive is to mislead, they're still lying. So, yes, that's how my values inform me. Now, let's look at something that I feel like speaks to character, because a part of truly vetting our candidates, in my opinion, is also finding out not just what's on their page, but what they are saying, like as the young folks say, in these here streets. Okay, let's see what the word on the street is. Some things that former President Trump has said, and what fact check and PolitiFact have to say about those things. Okay, let's see right here. May 3rd, 2024. Okay, let's look at this one. I don't have time to go through all of them. You're welcome to go through them all, but I just want to look at a few. Okay. Okay, this is one where Trump attacked FBI crime statistics. Okay. Former President Donald Trump said FBI data that show homicides and other violent crimes trending down are fake numbers. They're not. The FBI data for 2023 are preliminary, but crime statistics experts say the reporting behind the overall downward trend is solid, and that trend is validated when compared to data samples from local and state law enforcement reports. The FBI statistics contradict Trump's campaign narrative, repeated at the May 1st rally in Wisconsin, about rampant and rising violent crime in the U.S., and polls that show most Americans believe crime is on the increase. But that doesn't mean the data are wrong or fudged, as Trump put it. The FBI statistics are, however, incomplete, given that they measure only crimes reported to law enforcement. Some crimes, such as rape, are historically greatly underreported, and not every law enforcement agency reports its statistics. That has been the case for decades. Trump's dismissal of the validity of the FBI's crime statistics reminds us of when Trump was running for president in 2016 and falsely labeled the unemployment rates published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics as, quote, phony numbers. At that time, Trump claimed the unemployment rate was really 42%. The official unemployment rate then was 4.9%, right? But let's get back to crime. Okay, according to the FBI's preliminary 2023 crime report, violent crimes dropped 5.7% between 2022 and 2023, and the number of murders declined 13.2%. That's based on data from 79% of law enforcement agencies in the U.S., representing higher participation than any year during Trump's presidency. Murders and violent crime went up in 2020, Trump's last year in office, and murders continued to rise in 2021, albeit to a lesser extent, as violent crime ticked down a bit. Both have been declining since, according to FBI and other crime data. So when he says that crime went up under the Biden-Harris administration, it is not true. On the contrary, violent crimes and homicides have decreased under their administration. So this becomes concerning when you have a candidate telling you what they're going to do when it comes to how they're going to execute their agenda on crime and law and order. Okay, so let's look at PolitiFact and let's see what else is there. which speaks also to, yeah, speaks to how he embellishes the truth. And I'm being nice. Where I come from, these are just lies. This is just a lie. Okay. So here we go. PolitiFact. Um, Stated on July 27th, 2024, in a rally in St. Cloud, Minnesota. This is what Trump said. During the 2020 Minnesota riots after George Floyd's murder, Governor Tim Walsh didn't call in the National Guard, so I sent in the National Guard to save Minneapolis. What does PolitiFact say? That is a false statement. Okay. Let's see what else he has said on the campaign trail. Let's see what else he says about crime. Okay, this is considered a crime because of the most recent assassination attempt on Donald Trump, stated on July 21st, 2024, in an Instagram post. Says former President Donald Trump of the assassination attempt. It took my entire ear off, the whole ear. Well, we all know that's false. His ear looks pretty good to me. Let's see what else. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. I have to tell you, there is so much. So I'm not going to go through all of it, but I'm going to go through a, enough for you to understand that if you are a person who puts a lot of weight on character, and sure, you want a person to deliver results, but it matters to you how they deliver results, then I think it's important for you to fact check. If character matters, if speaking the truth matters, if the rule of law matters, if fairness matters, then yeah, you have to look at everything, not just what's on his page. Let's see here. Yeah, there's a whole lot of this where he's saying it's fake numbers, and I've already said that's not true. And him saying that crime went up, it's under the Biden-Harris administration, and that's not true. Okay. So, yeah, and it was up more when he was president. So for those of you that law and order and decreasing crime is important, then I would say you might want to look again, guess again, and really look to see not just who's verbose, not just that pounding on the chest, I'm going to do it kind of thing, but look and see what does the record show? What does the record show? Okay, I wrote some things on the back of an envelope because I was like, good gracious, trying to find all of this online and la 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 la. Oh my God, my God, my God. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. So I'm going to some things that I thought about that I felt bear mentioning. is 2016. Okay. And the reason I'm looking back at 2016 is because I think if we're laying out looking at a person's record, you just have to see consistently what their practice has been. That speaks to character. So I'll never forget when I heard him say this. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters. Do y'all remember that? The funny thing was when he said that, I took it seriously. Because at this age and stage in life, I know that when somebody tells you who they are, believe them the first time. Maya Angelou, you ain't never lied. Right? And other people were like, oh, no, you know, he's just kidding. He's just kidding. And even on my Facebook page last night, somebody was saying, oh, he's a New Yorker. He's just a New Yorker. You know, that's just basically saying that's just how New Yorkers are. And I was like, no, I'm married to a man originally from New York, and no, he's not like that. So, yeah, that whole thing. And so I can remember how people were arguing and saying, oh, you know, he just says stuff, you know, he's being sarcastic. He doesn't mean it. La di dee la di da. But I filed that in the back of my head because it did not so much speak to what he's capable of. It did speak to blind loyalty. And for those of us who value our freedoms and our rights, we know we have to hold the people that we elect accountable instead of making excuses for them, right? We have to hold them accountable. And him making that remark, I thought to myself, so there's some people who will support him no matter what he does. He can commit a crime and they'll still support him. Fast forward, fast forward, fast forward to the court case in New York, where he was found guilty on 34 counts. On 34 counts. 34 felony counts. And jurors unanimously agreed. I mean, do you realize that even if there are 34 charges brought up against someone, it's very rare that they're found guilty on all 34. And we're talking about a jury of peers. We're talking about people from different backgrounds, races, and that if you've ever watched the jury selection process, both sides have to agree. They question jurors, and there is a consensus about the jury selection. And these jurors unanimously agreed that he was guilty of falsifying records to conceal a $130,000 hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels to influence the outcome of the 2016 election. So the question becomes, should the President of the United States be above the law? And if he or she is above the law, then how in the world are they going to make sure to enforce the law? I want you to think about that. That does not give them credibility to enforce the law in a fair way, does it? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So, which brings me to a difference in the two candidates. There's also, it's not just what a candidate says, it's what a candidate allows, right? I was watching Kamala Harris, VP Kamala Harris, and Tim Walsh at their Michigan rally. And as Kamala Harris was delivering her speech, she made some remarks about being a prosecutor and how she has prosecuted people who are Donald Trump's type. And the crowd started saying, lock him up, lock him up, lock him up, lock him up. Now, this is a stark difference. Do y'all remember when Donald Trump was running against Hillary Clinton? And he was talking about her notorious emails? And that crowd said, lock her up, lock her up. Remember that? The difference between the two people, which I think speaks a lot to how they are going to approach the rights and privileges of people in a fair and equitable way. I watched as Kamala Harris told the crowd, she lifted her hands and said, no, 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 no. Let the courts deal with him. What you need to do is vote. We're dealing with this election. We'll let the courts deal with the other. And she quelled what could have been something that could have gotten out of control. Because as much as she feels like she is the best candidate, and as much as she has prosecuted Donald Trump's type, she did not want anything to be in any kind of rage or anything to be inflamed in a way that could embolden people to do things that are not lawful. She quelled and calmed it down. Whereas when Trump was running, he ate it up. That tells you something very different about the character of these two candidates. Okay. Let's see, what else did I write down? January 6th. January 6th. I mentioned how reckless and irresponsible Trump's handling of COVID-19 was. I have to add to that his reckless and irresponsible handling of the certification of the election where he was running against Joe Biden. Despite recounts, despite even Republicans, people in his own party saying, look, we have certified and recertified, the results are true. Despite all of that, he incited people, telling them to go fight like hell, and sent them to where then Vice President Mike Pence was to certify the results. I watched in horror as these people stormed the Capitol, threatening the lives of people inside. I heard them looking for Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi, and I saw a noose erected where they were saying, hang Mike Pence. And it is on record that it did not matter where you stood politically. Even members of Trump's family were asking him to call this thing off, to intervene. It was out of hand. People lost their lives. Do you understand? And you might say, well, they might have got banged up a little bit. They might have gotten this, gotten third. Because I've heard people try to blow it off like it was meh, meh. But that speaks to character. Do you understand? My concern about Donald Trump is if you're not with me, the way he kind of comes across is if you're not with me, you are dispendable. That is an absolute power mindset. That is a dictatorship mindset. And with the Supreme Court ruling that if anything that he did as president, he's immune from prosecution over, that means he can do whatever he wants and not be prosecuted for it. Do you understand? Do you understand? I hope you're really listening to this. That you're really listening to this. So, another crime that I wanted to bring up as I'm nearing to a close was what I feel like is a crime against humanity. And before you go, girl, that's a reach. I want you to hear me out on this. Is there anybody who's listening to me who has ever survived or been the victim in domestic violence, domestic abuse, sexual violence, emotional abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse? Anybody out there? And it was part of your taking back control of your life so that you can have a life. Was part of it where you had to find out the difference between what's healthy in a relationship and what's unhealthy. in a relationship? Anybody out there? I'm lifting my hands because me too. I've had to do that too. And I am very, very concerned about how Donald Trump's behavior, because of it being so exaggerative and so defying of what is sensible, because it is being drilled with every tweet, with every rally, every time he speaks, because he's continuing to keep hitting, almost like getting punched, that there's becoming such a normalization of the lack of kindness, the lack of dignity, the lack of value of each other as created beings. And because I'm a Christian, I believe that in God being the creator. Does it not concern you in the least that he, every time he gets behind a microphone, every time, whether it's an interview, whether it's a rally, whether he's on social media, he's always in attack mode, or he's always in throwing off, very condescending, very condescending, twisting people's words, trying to throw them off. And I wrote down this because I feel like it it is a mental health issue that a lot of people are not looking at, that I feel like is a crime. It's a crime to emotionally, emotionally, psychologically. It's like psychological warfare. It's like psychological warfare. And I wrote down a few things that are signs that you're being abused. Gaslighting. When a person tells you that you're wrong, they gaslight you and keep challenging you until you start second guessing yourself. It's very bombastic. It just keeps right on until it just chips away at your ability to think for yourself. I think that's why in so many cases, domestic abuse, people in domestic violence, it's hard for them to leave because that person has mentally, verbally, emotionally just kept chipping away, chipping away, chipping away to the point that they get so confused they don't know which way is up. Uh, on my Facebook page last night, I was responding to someone, the same person that said, "Oh, he's a New Yorker. I know he's this. I know he's that. I know he can be this way. He can be that way." But people are hurting. I heard an official from New Hampshire say the same thing on The View. "Oh, no, I don't like him either. Oh, no, he's this. Oh, no, he's that." But people are hurting. That's why I'm voting for him. So he's hurting people by gaslighting, belittling, guilt tripping, deflecting, right? Telling them they're responsible, playing the victim card, but seeing it as a betrayal. If anybody challenges him, that it's a betrayal, who tosses around, you're weak, you're a loser, who divides and conquers, sets one group against another, sows discord, is intense, is manipulative, and all those are descriptors of abusers, of emotional, verbal, psychological abuse. And it's sad when it becomes so normalized that people justify it by saying, yeah, but he's going to help the economy. Yeah, but people are hurting. And you trust a person who can dismiss you at the drop of a dime if you don't kiss the ring? A person who praises dictators, dictators in countries where people can be executed for speaking out, who was heralding his love letter from Kim Jong-un, and you think this person is going to make America safer? When his incendiary remarks, incendiary, and for those of you that don't know what incendiary is, those are remarks that inflame. It's like throwing gas on a fire. And you want to excuse that when the Bible, that so many Christians that I've heard support him, they want to hold it up. My question is, are you reading it? Are you reading what Jesus says about those that sow discord? So I'm not up here to preach, but I'm up here because there are those of you under the sound of my voice who are grappling, and the struggle is real. You don't know which way you're going to vote. You don't like this, but you don't like that. But I ask you, what kind of America do you want to have? Because if we look at the record, if we look at Donald Trump's record, I've already said in 2016 what he said that he could do and not lose voters. This from the law and order president. I've already proven through fact that violent crime was up more during his presidency. I know violent crime against Black people. It was almost like somebody was getting shot and killed by either trigger happy people or police. It got to the point it was almost every other day, it felt like. And people were hurting because the pain was so, it's like, can we make this stop? And I remember saying to somebody, if I see one more Black mother crying over the death of their child, but telling everybody, please, we don't want any violence, please. Yet Donald Trump is talking about a bloodbath. If he doesn't win this election, and you all think that that is going to keep America safe? Really? So this is the thing. When you're constantly being bombarded by psychological warfare, by psychological abuse, where I think mental, emotional, verbal, they're all in there together. What it can do to you is make you numb to the realities set before you. And that's what I thought about when I thought about the person's post or comments. Yeah, he's this, but people are hurting. Yeah, he's this, but he says he's a Christian. Is this the way Christians are supposed to behave? This is the way persecutors of Christians behaved. This is the way people who crucified Jesus behaved. And y'all are saying, but he's a Christian and he's going to restore our Christian values. Y'all, no. Let's call a thing a thing. Let's keep it real here. We have begun to normalize what would we would if we were really awake, we say, oh no, that's abuse. Oh no, that's abuse. No, I cannot partner. I cannot elect an abuser to the highest office in our country. And his actions are showing you every single time. All I can say is wake up. Wake up. There is an alternative. There is an alternative. There is an alternative. Our freedoms and our rights matter. Character matters. The rule of law matters, regardless of whether you're president of the United States or not. Absolute power, absolute immunity is dangerous. We, the people, are the conscience of this country. We're the ones that keep our leaders accountable to not get beside themselves. We have the right to peaceful protest when we feel like they are not looking out for our best interests. We, the people, have a voice. And I hope that you will use yours to vote for freedom, equal rights, democracy, the rule of law, holding our elected officials accountable, and a brighter future for future generations that are to come. Again, I welcome your input, comments. All I ask is that they be respectful. I reserve the right to delete any that I feel like are incendiary or divisive or condescending or bullying, because you see, I do not tolerate abuse. You can be passionate about your candidate without being abusive. And so I am saying right now, I will not tolerate abuse, but we can definitely have a healthy exchange of perspectives and ideas. And again, I'm going to put my sources in the description if you want a deeper dive. Like, share, subscribe if you're finding this very helpful. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye now.